All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode. We've been in kind of a family series,
Yep.
and really kind of just following a logical order from the whole macro big idea concept of getting married
Yeah.
and encourage that by and large. Encourage that. Well, just flat out encourage it. Get married sooner than
Uh-huh.
later. Have kids. I don't think we've done like an episode on singleness, but we touched on the reality that we're aware that
Right.
there is that call
Uh-huh.
and almost aspiration to a certain degree of like, I'm okay and totally content being single.
Yeah.
That's obviously the exception. But that is there. Jesus was single, the apostle Paul was
All
single.
same.
That can be a call from God.
Yeah.
But by and large, been focusing on family. So I think last episode we talked about dating
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of some guide rails, I guess, for that, or some guidance, some advice for that. Today, talking about what should you be looking for in a spouse.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain things that come naturally that we all look for that are kind of obvious and
Mm-hmm.
good, and then there's some specifics we can touch on, but that can also bring us kind of into like a premarital. I'd be interested to know like what are major things you've seen in premarital counseling
Yeah.
um that you cover, because that's kind of goes hand in hand, like what should you be looking for in a spouse, goes hand in hand probably with those premarital topics
Yeah.
regarding like you're engaged now, you're going to be married, you better make sure you cover this because maybe there's some misalignment here that's could be a problem.
Correct.
So, um, I'll start and then throw it to you.
Yeah, you
I'll
bet.
start with the basics that a Christian should be looking for a Christian. Um,
And the Bible tells us that.
yes.
It's
So
really kind of like the biggest
yeah,
standard.
most Christians have heard before, don't be unequally yoked,
Yeah.
which is at the most basic level is saying Christians marry Christians, period.
Mm-hmm.
You trust in Christ for salvation, it will be very difficult
Mm-hmm.
and disastrous and very difficult to marry someone who does not trust in Christ.
Yeah.
To put it in biblical language, it's a person who's alive marrying a person who's dead. So
Yeah.
that's not going to go well.
No.
Of course, Paul, we won't get into it on this episode. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, does talk about Christians who are not married to Christians and what do you do there and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But anyway, Christians should be looking for Christians. Uh, that's you got to start there.
Yep.
So if someone says they're not a Christian, they're not an option
Yeah.
for you um, to marry. Uh, Naturally and obviously, you're going to want to find someone that you're physically attracted to. That doesn't really have to be something said like you should look for that because you're already looking for that. Um, but
But it should be said that that's okay.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
That's
good.
the
That's
way
how
it
you're
should be.
made. That's how you're made,
Yep.
right? And that's good and right to say, I noticed this girl or I noticed this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll speak just from the guy's perspective. I noticed this girl because she's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
good, right, and
Yep.
holy, and how God made you, and that's normal to say,
Absolutely.
man, like she's beautiful. She's a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would also say I think because we don't need to get into the details here. I'd rather throw it to you to start maybe getting in some of the finer details.
Sure.
But someone you enjoy being around,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So and obviously those are some of the basic markers that initially form, I think, for most people, that initial attraction, that initial interest
Yeah.
is like they're a Christian. Um, they are she is beautiful, or if you're a gal, he's handsome,
Yeah.
he's cute, whatever
Whatever that is.
they say.
Uh-huh.
And also I enjoy being
That's
around
sick.
them. When we've hung
Yeah.
out, like we have a good time together,
Mhm.
and we enjoy hanging out and we're fun or it's fun and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Like those are just good, like basic. I think that's usually what sets the stage for like, I'm interested, I want to be intentional here and
Yeah.
see if there's anything here.
Yeah.
I'll throw it to you first. Let's cover the spiritual or Christian category
Uh-huh.
of what would be the next level, um, the next layer, I guess, maybe getting more specific to they're a Christian.
Uh-huh.
Is that enough when it comes to like spirituality? Would it be enough for someone to say, they're a Christian,
Hmm.
that's all I know, and so we don't need to get into any more details about Christianity, the Bible, beliefs, faith, and practice?
Yeah.
Or should someone say, in this dating relationship, we are both, we should be both trying to get more details on our Christianity?
Yeah, that's a really
And
good.
what would those be? What comes to
Yeah.
mind?
So good. So, there's ways to well, there's beliefs, right? What to believe. And then there's practices, what to do. And all those things are good. And friendships and churches, how churches work, even like relationships, okay, what do you believe? Great, great. What are the practices, the traditions, the culture of your
Mhm.
family, your life, right? All that's good. Uh, but then there's this thing that we could call, I don't know how else to say it than like a theological vision, but it's more like how to see. And I think that how to see trumps everything. In other words, it takes what you believe and it might take your practices, uh, but this theological vision is more like a lens in which you interpret the world. And I think when we're moving into another layer of, okay, they're a Christian, I do think it's probably really helpful because I know it is like when you go to a church and you have a tradition in a church and you're thinking about ministry, that theological, that doctrinal lens of how to see the Bible, how you see God, how you see yourself, how you see every ministry, how you see the world. That's a huge thing,
Mhm.
absolutely huge. And Jesus kind of touches on it by saying, the eyes are the lamp of the body. Um, and the Bible even says the word is a lamp unto your feet. There's something about the way we interpret the world that's really, really important. And in fact, I would argue that being an interpreter is part of being an image bearer. And so your interpretive lens, which we're just going to call for the sake of this discussion, your theological lens, your theological vision, the way you see the world, the way you see God, the Bible, church, I think those things are huge. And there's a reason why we have different traditions and different denominations because those are all different theological lenses. They're all different
Mhm.
ways of looking at God, the Bible, Christianity, the Christian life, family, church, ministry, leadership, culture, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So that would be the next layer. So you would want to make sure that you're all kind of seeing the same thing.
Mhm.
C.S. Lewis has that great thing about friends that they stand side by side looking at the same thing.
Mhm.
Are you two looking at the same thing? Like what? You two. And I think it's important to say that part is huge. So when you get married, the Bible says that you're going to be best friends and lovers. And so that's a really unique relationship. So you're looking at things that have to do with being best friends, and you're looking at things that have to do with being lovers, right? That attraction,
Mhm.
lovers. And I think the kind of glue that keeps it all together, that keeps those really, really healthy and feeding both of them is the way you see the world.
Mhm.
What theological lens, what biblical lens do you
Mhm.
look through? I think that's just massive.
I think to kind of put that in practical language, number one, you start, uh, okay, you're a Christian. I want to know how your approach to or where the Bible plays in all this for your whole life, right? So
Yes.
interpreting life and understanding the church and understanding Jesus and understanding yourself. Is the Bible your um
Your lens.
yeah, is it your ultimate way of thinking through anything? Like if you have a
Hmm.
question about church or your church or a church tradition or a belief or whatever, is your immediate what does the Bible say? Let me figure that out. That's key.
Absolutely.
Two people saying that's where we start with everything. That's what we're trying to figure
Hmm.
out. Um,
If one person goes somewhere else,
yeah.
that won't work.
Yeah. So that would be kind of your macro. And then to get specifically, again, you go, okay, What are some major points here I would offer up? Are y'all in the same line of thinking when it comes to church and where you're going to go to church, right?
Hmm.
So if you're a Roman Catholic, you've got a Roman Catholic and you've got a, um, charismatic, non-denominational, like that is going to create problems,
Yeah.
period. Because even if you're both using the Bible, you're coming to very different conclusions regarding church.
Yep.
Um, and you have to think through things like this. On the one hand, I could see people who are before they're married going like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out." No, okay. When you have kids, where are you going
That's
to
it.
church?
Yeah.
Where are you taking your kids to church? Because right now you may be like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll go to church with her," or "It's okay. I'll go to church with him." But once you have kids and you start thinking through that, you're gonna get real
I think
serious.
that's the best concrete example for couples to really think through what they believe and their practices is they say things like, "Oh, we'll figure it out." Just add kids to that picture
Hmm.
and then see if you figure it out.
Yeah. What
And
are
I
we
think
gonna?
that's a good test to be like, okay, so what are we going to do with kids?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great way to start.
So you need to be in the same. I would offer that practically and more specifically as another layer. You need to be in the same uh, church practice.
Yeah.
You need to be in the same church practice. Can you see yourselves going to the same church together
Yeah.
forever, and you're both in agreement of where to raise your kids and where you want your kids to go to church, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Um, uh, Views on salvation, we would talk about even more specifically regarding beliefs, I guess I could say, is
Yeah.
like, how do you view God in terms of his sovereignty,
His
in terms of his
grace.
grace, in terms
Yes.
of salvation? Someone
Yes.
who's a
The
staunch,
gospel. Yeah.
kind of more reformed or Calvinistic or whatever we want to call it, versus someone who's like staunch Arminian, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if you don't understand these
Those
terms
terms. Yeah.
necessarily. But if you do understand these terms,
Mm-hmm.
then you know what I'm saying in terms of like if you're both at odds there, it's going to be difficult. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
create tension. That's also going to change like where you go to church as
Yeah.
well. So I think there's some significant theological things that you need to be on the same page with.
Right.
um and yeah, so with beliefs, again, with even practices in life, I think, or faith and practice, like I know church is a big practice, but
Mm-hmm.
even just things like I don't know, like trying to think of something or make something up, I guess. If someone was like, man,
Like family traditions or whatever.
I believe that you should read the Bible before you do anything. Don't let your feet hit the floor before you read and pray for 2 hours.
Right.
Well, if your boyfriend or your girlfriend is like, oh, no, not at all, like I read the Bible on Sunday at church,
Uh-huh.
that would be something to explore,
Yeah.
because I could see that blossoming into
Right. Right.
multifaceted conflicts
Yes.
just
Yes.
regarding like your practice, your walk with the Lord, and what that kind of looks like. And again, it's just really what these things are trying to do is uncover like where are we really different
Yeah.
in a way that could become kind of this subtle like sandpaper
Yeah.
where you look up in 5 or 10 years and you like
Yeah.
can't stand
Yeah.
this aspect of each
Yeah.
other.
There's necessary pain and there's unnecessary pain. And I think what we're trying to talk through is maybe trying to help you with the unnecessary pain.
Hmm.
What's necessary pain? Necessary pain is you've got two sinful people coming together that God is going to use to sanctify and love the other person. And so there's going to be necessary pain involved in that, right? There's going to be the necessary pain of learning to love another,
Hmm.
the necessary pain of one gender being a stranger to the other and having to work through that, the necessary pain of different personalities and learning to be best friends and lovers. This is all necessary pain, good pain of pushing into the good, the beautiful, and
Hmm.
true of and the blessing of marriage. But then there's all the unnecessary pain,
Hmm.
stuff like that that we uh, want to be aware of, and we want to talk through and work out and see where differences might show up and how they might show up,
Hmm.
just so it's a wise thing. It's a
Hmm.
wise way of going forward instead of being caught off guard and surprised and shocked and hurt
Yeah.
by it and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
And I guess too, as a preface to almost like sidestep this for a second, and what you're talking about, dating and even engagement. like anything before covenantal marriage vows are said, that is your only time
Yeah,
to figure this out.
that
Like
is it.
this is the key to understand. It is your
Mhm.
only time to be really honest, really open, really authentic. And even in your and by honest, I even mean like yeah, that question you have about this person you're dating, like
Mhm.
now is the only time to ask it. Now
Yeah.
is the only time to figure it out and get to the bottom of it.
Right.
So I think just as a sidestep, big picture here, it's to say like if you're dating and even engaged, that question, if something comes up that you're just like, "Hey, I don't know. I'm trying to like I can't get this out of my mind.
Yes.
I can't get this question out of my
Yes.
mind." You need to ask it. You need to ask it
I
whether
have a
it's
really, really good example. I mean, there's a couple that have gotten all the way to the point of getting engaged, and then they realized one of them doesn't want to have children and one of them
yeah,
does want to have children. That's unnecessary pain. If they
yes,
would have had that conversation, rewind,
right,
way back here, they'd probably be at a different place.
right.
So, yes, that's
Yeah,
the kind of stuff we're talking about.
which that can carry us into, I mean, that's probably enough on macro. I know we're probably gonna miss something, like, massive, but,
Hmm.
spiritually, I think that gets the point across, like, you wanna feel like you're walking side by side in the same direction with
Yep.
Christ regarding your faith,
Yep.
regarding the practices of your faith, regarding where you go to church, like, all of that seems in line,
Way
I
you
think.
see, how you see things. Yeah.
Lifestyle though, right? All of
Hmm.
that could check out, but in terms of life and how you view what you want your life to look like on a day-to-day basis, what you want your life to look like in 50 years, all of that Christian stuff could totally be in line, and you have a ton of lifestyle differences that will also could wreak havoc. Again, kids is a great one where you get married to someone and you find out, after you're covenanted together, that one person's like, dude, I want to have like five,
Yeah.
6 kids.
What?
I don't believe in using protection, like,
Right.
and the other person's like, oh, I was thinking one.
One. Yeah.
That's not only pre-marriage conversation, but that kind of lifestyle question, I'm sure there's a handful of big ones. That's pre-engagement conversation.
Yeah.
To me, I'm not saying it's not date 1, right? You don't wanna go on, like, date 1 first date
How many
and be
kids
like,
do you want to have?
"Hey, I've got a checklist of things."
Yeah.
But, like, once you get comfortable and you're clearly both
Yeah.
interested, again, dating is for the sole purpose of figuring out, like, should we get married?
Hmm.
Then then just reverse engineer it. Like, when we're married, we're gonna have kids, or at least I want to. So reverse engineer all that stuff and say, "Yeah, like, do you wanna have kids?" That's a normal question just
Yeah.
in life. You've thought about this, "Do you wanna have kids?" "Yeah, I wanna have 5 kids." "Oh, I've always thought about having 4 kids." Like, "Alright, you're good, you wanna have kids."
Yes.
Or both of you are like, "I don't know, maybe 2, whatever."
Uh-huh.
Um, what are some of those other I'm trying to think too, but are there any other I know there are others, but
Yeah.
any other in your mind right now, lifestyle questions? Whether it's like, do you wanna have kids or, you know,
Yes. Yes. Like, well, it was for me because I was in the ministry. So when uh, I was when I first saw Nancy and I saw her and I thought she needed help with her luggage, we were going overseas on a mission trip and there's like 55 of us. And so there was that attraction. I go, that young lady needs help with her luggage. And to this day, Nancy doesn't even remember that
mm,
conversation. But yes, there needed to be, we're kind of moving in the same direction. Um, Ministry wise, that was the case. Like if you're going into the ministry and the person you're dating does not want to go in the ministry, there's going to be a discussion. You
mhm,
either move in the non-ministry direction or
mm,
you move into the ministry direction. So I would imagine that there are certain areas like that in terms of vocations that
mhm,
you might need to explore. One person wants to be a police officer, and the other
mhm.
person's like, no, I can't do that. One person's going in the military. You know what I mean?
Yep,
So I would wonder, there would be certain missions that God gives us that probably you need to talk through.
yeah,
Um, Definitely, we've already touched on children. And then the other thing too, I think it's it's exploring the personality. Um, and how certain personalities could be tougher in certain situations,
Mhm.
and being
Yeah.
going in with eyes wide open. Like if you have someone that tends to be a perfectionist and tends to be very controlling and domineering, uh, you're going to need to work through how you're going to work through that.
Mhm.
I mean, if I had a daughter and she was dating a guy that was really, over controlling
Mhm.
or over dominating, I would make sure, if it's still healthy, I
Mhm.
would make sure that that's talked about on all kinds of different areas.
Mhm.
And then the same if it was the woman was that way.
Mhm.
Because what tends to happen too is you have gender, you have personality, you have spiritual realities that all come to play in the relationship and all get involved in conflicts and knots. But understanding them is a really important thing.
Mhm.
And so certain personalities will tend to attract us in the beginning because you tend to kind of find your complement.
Mhm.
If you have an introvert, they usually are attracted to an extrovert. An extrovert's usually attracted to an introvert. You know what that means, just kind of where you get your energy. Do you get your
Mhm.
energy alone? You get your energy from people. That kind of stuff is good to talk through.
Mhm.
And it's good to be aware of it so that you can appreciate it in the person
Mhm.
before it annoys you.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it's always exciting because it's not you,
Yeah.
right? Oh, that's so cool. They're not me, which is great. And the genders, they're not you. But personalities, they're not me. And that's attractive and that's new and it brings you together. But if you don't both of you push into that and understand each other's
Mhm.
personalities and stuff, it eventually is like fingernails on the board.
Yeah.
It becomes the rock in the shoe
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 years from now. And again, this is all like unnecessary pain. It's just talking about it and going in, recognizing it that this
Mm.
is a thing. So I think, again, if we were to say, what would it be? I'd say missions and vocations work is a major area that you want to be able to talk
Mhm.
through because can you both see yourself in going in this direction? Obviously, children are a major one as well.
Mhm.
And then I think more personalities lend themselves to relational dynamics that you need to be really aware of. Again, a perfectionist, a controlling person, you need to know that dynamic going in.
Mhm.
Are you good with that?
Right.
How's that going to be when you have to have a really hard conversation? Like the other person, you need to know if you go into a relationship like that, you have to be like a warrior,
Mhm.
meaning you're not going to be rolled over.
Mhm.
You're going to say, "Hey, no, we're going to talk about this." No,
Mhm.
hey, you're doing that, right? Cuz you'll be God's agent in their life for sanctification, but you need to I think there's certain personalities that need to be really pushed into on the front end. The easygoing personalities, maybe not so. Ones where it seems like, "Oh man, we're just so compatible." Okay. Um, but still you need to be aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That being aware is the key because I'm like, there's no like magic personality matchup, right? Because
Mhm.
there's, you get two type A people who can drive each other insane, but then you get a type A, type B, and they drive each other insane. So
Yep.
there's no like magic thing. It's more, I think that's good of, are you aware?
Yeah.
Like, are you aware? Like, I could envision a meeting where it's like, you're aware that she's super type A, right?
Right.
Um, and play that out. Like, understand what that looks like when you have two kids on a Saturday.
I can give like a really, really good example, bud. When I was doing the church, we were doing the church planning. And when they do that, they put you under a microscope and you do all kinds of all kinds of tests.
Hmm.
Everything from your personality to relational, all the stuff that's done at corporations, everything. Secular ones, spiritual ones. And in the midst of it, they called Nancy and I aside and they go, "Are you guys okay?"
Hmm.
And we were like, "Yeah, we're fine. What's up?" Because they laid out our personalities,
Hmm.
and it was like, not only were we different, obviously, but we were off the charts of the extremes
Mhm.
of everything
Mhm.
else that were opposites, and they were wondering how we were doing.
Mhm.
And that's the point. The
Right.
point is, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you guys?" We're like, "Yeah, yeah," because we're very aware of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we're very aware of this, we know how we have to navigate.
Yeah. 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 Because I've seen it before in marriages where people, it seems like they're 10 years in or whatever, they kind of finally start waking up to what everyone else can see around them, which is like, that your just personality types are like at war, but y'all don't really see that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think being aware of that lifestyle, going back, trying to check this off and keep this tight, but
Mhm.
or tighter as an episode. Yeah, do you want to have kids? Are you aware of each other's like personality types and what you envision like a Saturday looks like as a family 10 years down the road?
Yeah.
Whereas the guy's like, I just want to wake up and like get on the couch and
Yeah.
watch some football with the kids,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, well, I want to wake up at 5 and go on a family 5K,
Right.
as
Uh-huh.
silly as it sounds, it's like that kind of thing over 10 years can start to really be
Yeah.
like, I'm going insane,
Yeah.
both people. Um, there was something else I was thinking about, but I can't remember now. Personalities, lifestyle, kids.
Yeah.
Oh, what we could touch on, mainly interested to hear your thoughts regarding sex in a marriage, because
Yeah.
obviously that's you don't want to awaken anything in a relationship early regarding that conversation.
Yeah.
um but I do wonder, because it usually comes in up in premarital
Yeah.
counseling,
Always,
which
always
which
bring it up in premarital.
which obviously
Yeah.
that's tough, and I don't know if you've ever seen any examples of this, but um just regarding, have you ever seen any examples? Because once you're engaged, like you're engaged, people know you're engaged. It's much harder to break it off at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen any examples where there's kind of radically different views on sex. I know that that could be one of those things, even with personality, where you just kind of have to go into a marriage knowing, like the joke where it's like, I've been married to the same person who's become like 7 different people over the last
Yeah.
50 years. There's just
Right.
an element of marriage, like that's the reality. And as
Absolutely.
Christians, if you do not go in going like, I'm going to die to myself and I've got loads of grace ready,
Yeah.
there's no perfect match. And so it's just like going to be bad. So no matter what in any marriage, you have to have loads of grace.
Mhm.
Obviously, before marriage, you want to start checking as many of these boxes for this overall compatibility as possible.
Mhm.
And then you're just ready with loads of grace. Like, this is going to be hard. We have to die to ourselves in a ton of ways.
Yeah.
But I do wonder about sex, or if you've ever seen any examples. And again, I know that's one of those things that it's just like it almost takes getting married to actually figure out
Absolutely, bud.
what that's
Yeah.
gonna be like, because there's
Yes.
a difference between my view on what I think I need and want versus,
Yes.
like, when you get married,
Yep.
but are there any boxes to check before you say your vows? Meaning, I could see, the guy in particular being like, "I can't wait.
Right.
I
Yep.
imagine we will be in bed together every day."
Yeah.
And then the girl is like, I don't have much of a drive, and I was thinking once a month is how I envision our marriage.
Absolutely, bud. I hit this uh in premarital counseling all the time, and I hit this in marriage counseling all the
Marriage
time.
counseling for sure, it's gonna come because now
Oh my
you're
word.
in it, but
But I say it to the premarital because mostly when there's a couple that's about ready to get married, and I preface this by saying this is going to be the strangest conversation for you. First, we'll just go through the differences, just that how men and women are different, sexually
Mhm.
wired differently, um, even preferences, everything, right? Just it's almost like God packed a certain amount of pleasure in a woman that he packed differently in a man in certain
Mhm.
areas,
Mhm.
right? Visual, touch, all that kind of stuff. Um, but this is the real birth of my necessary pain, unnecessary pain,
Mhm.
where I will say to a couple, said, listen, I know this sounds strange because especially they're waiting to be married to have sexual intimacy, right? And they can't wait. Both of them can't wait, generally speaking.
Right.
The most of them are like, can't wait. And so I will say, I know this sounds strange, but we're going to talk about this because uh, you will not probably in a year, but probably guaranteed when you have kids, but it could happen if you haven't had kids yet, maybe 2 years, 3 years, that you have been able to organically uh, have this sexual relationship with each other organically that has been no pain involved.
Hmm.
But I guarantee you, the longer you go in marriage, and then when you add kids, that you need to do this. And that's where I said, I want you to sit down at some point in time and y'all talk as a couple about how often each person wants to have sexual intimacy in a week or a
Right.
month, right? Why? Because the unnecessary pain of hurting each other and not getting the signals and the miscommunications and I said one of the things that Nancy and I wish someone would have told us at the beginning was that when we finally had the conversation, it was like, okay, this is your expectation and your desire. And, generally one
Mm.
spouse is going to want more, one spouse is going to want less. And then that's when you say you're going to love each other and move towards loving what that looks like to
Hmm.
love each other. The one that
Hmm.
wants less has got to give and go more. The one that
Right.
wants way, way more needs to come down a little bit.
Right.
And then y'all set it and you plan it. And this is where the people on the couch that are about ready to get married freak out. What? I'm like, yes, you say it's going to be 2, 3 times a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you say, this is when we're going to do it. And that frees everybody up. No, no, no pain.
Right.
You both look forward to when it's happening. You both have planned for it. And unless you're getting in at 2 in the morning and you look at each other, hey, let's just wait till tomorrow night, it's always going to happen because you've said it. And I can't tell you how many folks have said that's
Yeah.
the best thing
Yeah.
that was communicated in premarital or in marital
Yeah.
counseling,
Yeah.
because it took off the table. She didn't get my signals, or he didn't get my signals. He doesn't love it. Just the unnecessary pain of that.
Yeah.
This is very important.
Yeah. And yeah, macro perspective too. I think there it's knowing one person's gonna have a bigger drive. Generally, it's the
Yeah.
guy, right? I would imagine if you ask like a guy before marriage, like how often, he'd be like,
Yeah.
you know,
Every night,
yeah,
twice a day.
twice a day, right?
Yeah.
But knowing one person's gonna have a bigger drive, probably the guy, but one person can have a bigger drive, and
Yep.
you need to understand like that there's a lot of complexity to life, especially when you have kids and whatever. There's a lot of complexity that you have to be
And you
realistic.
need to understand that it's not wrong, right?
Yeah,
One person has
yeah,
a a
yeah,
drive and one person doesn't, because what
yeah,
does happen in these differences is that they turn into moralisms.
yeah,
And one person will go, gosh, it's just objective. It's just the way
yeah,
it's what happens if you
yeah,
don't have this conversation.
yeah,
Years of doing this with couples, it happens.
yeah. You both have to be realistic about your drive for intimacy. You both have to be realistic and
Hmm.
take care of each other in different ways. So but anyway, again, but that's a perfect example of knowing like when you go into marriage, there's a lot you don't know.
Yes.
And like you just have to be ready with a ton of grace and a ton of willingness to die to yourself and a ton of willingness to um uh sacrifice for the other person in a myriad of ways and make it work.
Yeah.
And so anyways, this is probably long enough. I know we missed probably a couple core big things. I think that's helpful, at least as a good guidance. Maybe next episode we'll get into like early marriage,
Yeah.
marriage pre-kids, marriage young kids, and then from there, and then we'll maybe wrap up this series. So
Good.
until next time, peace.
Great.